talking about 90s platformers from childhood, it's pretty obvious what most people, at least those who owned a PlayStation, will think of. Spyro the fire-breathing, wisecracking dragon, Crash the spinning, snazzy jean-wearing bandicoot,
Whoa!
Jinx the jingling, spandex-wearing harlequin?
What?
Okay, I cheated a little bit. Technically, Jinx on the PS1 isn't a 90s platformer. In fact, it was released in 2003, at a time when the PS1 was entering its twilight years in order to make way for its younger sibling, the PS2. And if you're an American, the chances are you haven't heard of this game before, which is not surprising given it was never released outside of Europe. Jinx tells the tale of titular hero Jinx the Court Jester, who sets out on a mission to save the king, queen, and court of planet Plug from the clutches of evil pirates. Now, the first question that comes to my mind is, why a court jester as a protagonist? I mean, it's not like the full look can't be pulled off to great effect. Characters like Batman's Harley Quinn, Final Fantasy's Kefka, and the Hunchback of Notre Dame's Clopin, if I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry, are testament to that fact. These characters are also known for being wild, wacky, even borderline insane at times, making them sometimes more memorable than the main lead. The problem is, Jinx has none of these traits and not one iota of personality. You'd think a running theme with a court jester would be humour, and yet not once throughout this entire adventure does Jinx show me anything resembling such. There's no funny slapstick animations, no witty one-liners. In fact, there's no spoken dialogue whatsoever in this game. Every bit of information you're given is done so in the form of text boxes. Admittedly charming, fancy parchment scroll text boxes, but text boxes nonetheless. I may not be giving them much credit here, but I can't imagine many 3, 5, or even 8-year-olds will choose reading a boring brown sign over actually playing the game. But maybe I'm being a tad too harsh on Jinx and his selective mutism, especially when the character you play as is only a small part that makes up a platforming adventure title. So what does the world of Plug have in store for the intrepid player? Well, you've got 6 different realms to explore, each broken down into 3 areas, with each realm having its own theme. It's not hard to tell which realm you're currently in either. If the oh-so-inventive name of Pyramidesia doesn't give you a clue, the sandy environment, pyramid structures, and hieroglyphics that adorn every surface will let you know that this is supposed to be an ancient Egyptian-style level. There's always one, isn't there? And I have to say, this game is absolutely gorgeous to look at, even with its dated graphics. Now, I may be a little biased on this. It doesn't take a genius to make a connection between the level design of Jinx and that of the OG Spyro titles. Even Jinx's cover bears more than a passing resemblance to Spyro 2's PAL cover. Bright, eye-catching colours, protagonist running from danger, looking like a badass while doing so?
How about new?
Yes, it's not the most original level design, and it wouldn't be hard to accuse Jinx developers, HammerHead, of plagiarism. But you know what? It's a bloody good idea. You're making a game well into the late stages of the PS1's life cycle. You need to grab people's attention in some way. Why not play with their nostalgia and style your game off an extremely popular franchise of the 90s? And I won't deny that I was taken aback by the beauty of this game at times. That is, when the camera wasn't getting stuck on a wall or freaking out on Jinx's face. The portal room alone had me gawping for a few minutes with its grand scale, complementary colours of blue and orange, as well as the stars painted on every wall and magic sparkles filling the air. Each realm is also incredibly well designed and, accompanied by the quite frankly fantastic soundtrack, helps cement the player into the level. For example, if I asked you to think up a spooky, haunted house that's family friendly, with a suitable theme to boot, this is probably the sort of thing that comes to your mind. Now, the biggest make or break for a platformer is obviously going to be the platforming, and the combat, I suppose, if the game features it. Thankfully, I can report that, for the most part, Jinx handles both incredibly well. In terms of platforming, the game actually works better when it isn't forcing you to take things slow. Unlike other characters I'm familiar with in platformers, Jinx takes time to build up momentum and can't break out into a full sprint the second you push forward on the analog stick. Something that can be bothersome when the game wants you to slow your pace for a series of deadly jumps, because Jinx's momentum is also what determines how far he'll jump. I frequently found I had to do small circles on a platform before I attempted a leap of faith because I knew I wouldn't make it with the speed I was currently going at. And in some of the trickier sections where you often have to go, jump, stop, line up, go, jump, stop, this can cost you some health or even a life if you're not careful. Now, going at a leisurely pace isn't always a downer in this game, and it does try to spice up these moments with the occasional obstacle puzzles, riddles, blah blah blah. But when the game isn't trying to slow you down with laughably easy and pointless block puzzles, and it just lets you fly free, oh my gosh, it's so much fun to play. There's an entire area in Pyramidesia that's just one huge time trial, and the combination of linking jumps over bottomless pits, dodging enemies and obstacles, taking shortcuts wherever you can, and using certain power-ups to slow time and give you more seconds, is certainly enough to get the heart pumping. Sadly, time trial sections are few and far between, and usually found in underwater sections, which are admittedly not completely awful to navigate due to the game's surprisingly responsive swimming controls, kudos to HammerHead for that one, but for sure not as fun as combining multiple daring jumps over pits of lava. And then there's the combat of Jinx. Definitely room for improvement, but certainly not the worst I've experienced. Like other platformer protagonists, Jinx is limited in what he can do to attack. He can either swing his staff, or perform a jump slam. Once you realise you can do the latter, however, it'll be the only ability you use because the staff swing has some pretty goddamn awful hit detection. But what really makes the combat worth enduring is the special power-ups you can find that can literally one-shot enemies. Not that they're really necessary given every bad guy goes down with just a few regular hits, but they're fun to use nonetheless due to the much-needed sheer wackiness they bring to the game. Unfortunately, what Jinx does do well is often ruined at times by a multitude of problems that plague this peculiar platformer. I've already mentioned how naff of a character Jinx is in both design and disposition, so I won't destroy his self-esteem further, but I am going to mock some of the inhabitants of the planet Plug because good lord, what is going on here?
Dental plan.
Lisa needs braces.
Not only are these some of the most hideous creatures I've ever laid eyes upon in a video game, to the point I feel putting a gun to their head would be kinder than making them endure their obvious suffering, but they're also so limited in variety that it won't take long before you grow tired of coming across yet another, I don't know, a snake with a leprechaun hat? Vampire that got stung on the chin by a bee? And I'm pretty sure this dude made an appearance in the Thing video game. There's even a character who I'm fairly certain is supposed to be a jab at Katie Price, given her name, appearance, the way she speaks, and the fact that HammerHead are British developers. If you don't know who Katie Price is, she once went by the pseudonym Jordan and used to be a page 3 girl for newspapers in the UK, i.e. she got her tits out. A lot. Can I just remind you guys this is rated for ages 3 and up? Not all models in Jinx are completely terrible, of course, and I did like some of the enemy designs in the Egyptian sections, especially the Anubis people and the mummies. But another thing this game struggles with is repetitiveness. Not just by throwing the same enemies at you for the entirety of your journey through that particular realm, but also in both level design and layout. To the point I swear the time trial level had only been half designed, and then that section copied, pasted, and flipped. There's also the tasks given to Jinx by the various people he meets throughout the land of Plug.
Gay!
with most if not all requiring backtracking through every area of a realm to find a certain number of a particular item. Now, if this had been in the style of, say, Spyro 2, where you learn a new ability, quickly hop back into the level that requires such an ability to be used, and then complete whatever task needs to be done, it wouldn't have bothered me so much. It takes a few minutes at most to get to where you need to be, a few minutes to finish said task, and bish bash bosh, level complete. The problem with Jinx is these items you need to find are scattered throughout each area of a realm, with said areas taking on average 20 to 30 minutes to navigate, depending on how lost you get or how frequently you die. They are far too long, with little to no variation in style or substance to warrant backtracking through them for a few extra items. Yes, it's missing out on a big chunk of the game, and I believe even affects the ending you receive. But honestly, I cared so little for the plot, the characters, and everything in between, that the loss of sanity that would occur if I had attempted this colossal task was far more off-putting than the worry of a potential comment telling me, "Well, you didn't play the game properly then, did you?" But perhaps Jinx's biggest sin of all is it's far too easy to play. Yeah, you don't expect a game that's rated for ages 3 and up to be hair-pullingly difficult, but Jinx takes easy to the extreme. I mean, for God's sake, the game outright tells you how to defeat its only 2 bosses before their respective rooms. Not hinting at what you need to do, it literally tells you word for word the exact means of defeating them.
Damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Even dying in this game, which won't happen often unless you're going out of your way to kill Jinx out of pure spite, has no repercussions whatsoever. Whatever you've done up until the point Jinx died will still be in effect when you respawn back at the nearest checkpoint. That includes any puzzles you solved, doors you unlocked, enemies you killed, and so on and so forth. Makes you wonder why HammerHead even bothered including checkpoints and didn't just have you respawn in the same room you died in. With all this in mind, I suppose I can be at least grateful that Jinx didn't outstay its welcome. The whole adventure took me around 4 hours and 15 minutes to finish, and it's certainly not one I fancy retaking anytime soon. But I will admit it did at least try to set out to do what a game's supposed to do, i.e. provided me with entertainment, no matter how mild it may have been. There were at least a few moments I truly enjoyed, moments that showed just how good this game could have potentially been. A more appealing protagonist would have certainly helped its case too. I can't imagine many kids who were still using their PS1s at the time Jinx was released would be clamouring to play a game about a court jester in skin-tight spandex. But overall, it's a platformer that has potential. It might not be up there with the likes of Spyro the Dragon or Crash Bandicoot, but had it been given more love, it certainly could be in the ranks of games such as 40 Winks or Bugs Bunny Lost in Time. Yes, it's not a true 90s game given it was released in 2003, but gosh darn, it's got all the makings of one. And any game that brings back fond childhood memories of playing beloved titles such as Spyro gets at least 1 tick in my book.